how did the story of João and Dindim first come across your radar? How'd you hear about this?
Well, I'm from Brazil, so this was a very popular story back home. It got a lot of play. As it is reflected on the film, somebody went in and did an interview, and everybody ended up knowing about Jean and Dindin. But funnily enough, none of my Brazilians counterparts went and actually bought the rights for the story. We knew about the story, but nobody brought the rights. So a studio in LA went down and sent their lawyers, and the story went viral around the world. So they went out there and bought the story. And at the time, when I was in LA and in the US doing a promotion for my previous film that was selected to represent Brazil at the Academy Awards in 2017, and I was doing the promotion work, and somebody heard about this director that had a connection to the ocean, and that was from Brazil, and that told stories, that touched the heart. So they called me up for a meeting, and coincidentally, I was in town, and they sat down and said, we have the rights for the Din Din story, and we think that you'd be right to tell it. And I said, well, this is a great story, and I'd love to tell this story. And, I wanted to do also a film for my son to be able to watch. My son's actually here. He's 15 years old today. And at the time, he was 10. So, this was, before COVID. So, and we thought, maybe when he's 12, he'll watch it and he'll love it, something that is touching. And then it took 5 years to get the film made. So that's how I came across, and that's how I got invited to do this amazing, beautiful project.
And Jean, how did you get involved with this? And I'm just curious, what was the appeal for the role, or appeal of the role for you?
We were south of France, and he came home with the script, and we spoke, and I found the story interesting because we can talk about the planet, and we can talk the relationship that we have with our planet, with the animals, and how we preserve animals and how we preserve the planet. And also, it is important that it is a true story. It is still completely magic that you see that penguin coming back 8 years in a row to visit the fishermen. Nobody knows how and why. That's very important for me because we communicate between us, speaking and looking at each other, but he's just present without any way that we use as human to communicate. And that's fantastic for me to have a contact with this little bird with the heart. I don't see another way, and that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I'm sure everybody has heard the phrase, don't work with kids and animals. And you made the decision very early on that you wanted to use like the actual penguins and not just rely on animatronics or CGI. I mean, I'm sure there's 1 or 2 shots in there, but like for the most part, it's actual penguins. You used a penguin wrangler, which I'm curious to find out. Like, do you go to Craigslist and just try and see if there's somebody available that has a bunch? I want to hear about the experience of actually working with the penguins. You put it so beautifully there, but from a director's standpoint, what's it like trying to?
Well, it was interesting. They always say don't put kids, animals, and ocean together. It's like don't shoot in the ocean.
Wow, 3 for 3.
3 for 3, and we knew it was going to be a challenge. Very early on, we talked. The production talked. Let's try to be authentic as possible. I come from over 30 years experience doing documentaries before I got into fiction, and for me, the authenticity was very, very important. I wanted to make sure that this. We looked at the penguin and we saw it as a character as well, which was from a director's point of view. Very difficult because you have to, frame the camera as you do an actor, and having Jean and the penguin have an interaction as 2 characters. It's very different from just doing a documentary, nature documentary, and filming, the animal very beautifully and all that. So the challenge was to use as many different techniques as possible. We had animatronics, we had digital shots, obviously, for the dangerous parts of the penguins. When kids watch it, they start getting very scared because the penguin falls out down a cliff and they think that, oh my God, the penguin's gone. But we did manage to use about 80% of real penguins. And the penguin wrangler name is Gabelli. It's an Argentinian guy. And I call him the penguin whisperer, because he's a truly magical guy. He looks like Gandalf from Lord of the Rings. Like, he's got a beard that goes right down, and he's got this aura, magical aura with him, and he was able to make the penguins, with a lot of love and a lot of care, do pretty much everything we wanted it to do. But the reason we did that is that we had 10 penguins overall doing one penguin. We worked a lot with 5 main penguins. And so we did a casting. Which penguin would have a different, penguin casting, I'm telling you. When Gabelli told me we were going to do a penguin casting, I started laughing. I'm going, what are you talking about? And he goes, no, each penguin has a different energy and a different soul and a different personality. And we have to match it to the scene that we want. Some penguins are quite nervous and they walk around, and other penguins are quite peaceful. Other penguins are curious. And that's how we're going to do this and make it work, respecting the penguin's time. Penguins only work until 3 p.m., by the way.
Is this union
It's the best
rules
union,
for
I'm
penguins?
telling you. I'm telling you. So the penguins only work until 3 p.m. because they're morning animals. They go out fishing in the morning and they come back in midday, and by 3 p.m. they're pretty much done. So we knew we had to it's not that you had only to work with animals and all that, but you only had to work until 3 p.m. with the penguins. And when Jean, came on board, obviously a dream to work with. I'm a guy from the sea, and I've seen the Big Blue probably 100 million times. And when we talked about the possibility of working with Jean Reno, I said, "Oh my God, are you serious? Is this for real?" And I made sure I went down over to his beautiful house in the south of France and asked him, "Can you read this with your heart open and understand what we're trying to do?" And Jean was so generous and absolutely beautiful. But the day that Jean said yes, I basically made the script a lot. I took most of the dialogue out. Jean Reno. What Jean Reno, looking at the penguin, he speaks volume, and getting the two of them together. So it was a huge challenge, but it was absolutely joyful and wonderful to see the interaction between them.
I tried to scan the audience when I came in. I don't think any of the penguins are here tonight. So we can talk openly. They weren't divas, right? They weren't taking all the craft services table. They weren't.
They were the star of the movie, in fact. They do what David asked them to do, not like a little boy or even dogs. Dogs, sometimes you cannot, where's the dog? But the penguin is, because he likes to be with somebody. He doesn't like to be by himself, And they were working. By the end of the day, they were working a lot. Yeah. And every day. They're different than a dog, a horse. Even I've worked with eagles also. They're completely different. They have a good union because they're good workers, in fact.
So if you've got 10 different penguins playing Dindim and 5 that you're using mainly, were there certain penguins, this is a real question, I'm not being sarcastic, but was there certain penguins that you kind of bonded with a little bit more than others as you were working with?
Of course. The one we see, let's say 50% of the images was the one we had something in between, yes.
It was Maui. That penguin is just the chillest penguin. He's just so amazing because every time Jean was with him, they really bonded. It was actually beautiful to see, and you can see how comfortable they are. He's just petting him, and like the real story, there was this bond between the two of them. So Maui, from every time, the penguin, we're bringing Maui, and say, okay, we have a great scene coming up, because it actually happened. There's this bond between them.
I came across this, I think it's the motto of City Hill Arts, which is the production company that made this, where it said its slogan is to revitalize people, planet, and perspective. So I'm just curious as we exit here, how you both feel that this film sort of exemplifies that.
Personally, I know that we have one planet and we cannot change the planet. And I have 6 kids, and I would like to, after me, to give the planet to them in a good shape. The movie speaks about that. It speaks about the look that you have towards the animals and towards the environment, and also how you treat the sea. And if we can think not destroying the planet after that movie a little bit more, I'll be happy. That's it.
I feel the same. I think it's about moving people, and especially about empathy. I think it's empathy. I think we're lacking a little bit of empathy in the world today towards each other, towards the planet itself. There's a lot of fear and there's a lot of people lost. And I think hopefully this gives it a little glimpse of saying, you know, simple act. I mean, João made a very simple act of saving a small penguin. And now with that small act, it's just touched so many people's lives, and people, you know, feel good and say, okay, there's hope, there's something there. I love the moment that the journalist, you know, talks about, and I think it's for me it's very touching because he talks about, you know, this was something that gives me hope, and I you know, I love that story. And the Dindin, the original story, has the same thing, you know, and for me, that's what it is. Talk about planet, talk about people, and the connection that we have amongst ourselves, really.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. Thanks
Thank
for bringing
you.
the film
Thank
here,
you.
and thank you for sticking around.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.